gets messy. She only sees this as a reminder of her son, as a reminder of that love, and she goes into rapture. What does she say to her friend? She says, look at this devil. The moment he comes, he makes everything messy. She says devil, but actually what she feels is love. So this sense of oneness, when you have with any individual, it gives you so much joy. Why don't you spread it? The moment you spread it to accommodate more people, the less irritable you'll get, the less upset you'll get, the less agitated you'll get. Now today what you experience is what the Ishavasya Upanishad calls Vijugupsa. The moment you see another person, you get irritated. Isn't it so? Especially when you're driving to office. Your attitude is that my car should be the only car on the road. Anybody else who comes is a competitor. Hey, I hate it. If you only were to welcome them, you'd go to office without being in pieces. Today, by the time you get there, there's a gentleman who says, I can't drive anymore because it upsets me. Why should it upset you? Once you have this feeling of oneness, even the faults of the person become an infinite source of amusement. Then he goes into Jnana Yoga. We're talking about Wordsworth, remember? He says, I gazed and gazed, this thinking, the contemplation, going over, what is this fabulous world? What is the meaning of, suddenly out of the blue a child appears, there's a birth. And then you live life, and then suddenly an individual disappears, dead. What is the purpose of the birth? What is the purpose of the death? What is going on in this world? I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. When you are thinking, you have no idea or when you do the study of the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Vedanta, etc., you don't know what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, when you're not even thinking, in vacant or in pensive mood, your mind is vacant of thoughts of the world and pensive in the thought of reality. They flash upon that inward eye. The Jnana Chakshu opens, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. He describes the sense of union, yuja, complete union with that, and that infinite bliss that you experience. All this in a few lines of a poem. What a genius he must have been. So you reach the state of Uparati, withdrawal from the world, vacant and absorbed in the higher, pensive. And then you get into meditation, deep meditation, and you reach the state of realization. Now let's get back to where we were. Verse 21.
निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्.
Nirashi doesn't mean hopeless, please. Okay, Asha is considered as hope. So Nirashi is not to be translated as hopeless. Nirashi means without expectation. With body and mind controlled. Tyakta sarva parigraha, having abandoned all possessions. Shariram kevalam karma, performing physical action alone. Such a one does not incur sin. In this verse he is speaking of how a man of wisdom, a wise person, achieves harmony with the internal conditions. These verses can be misunderstood if you don't get the message properly, and therefore it needs interpretation. Nirashihi means the intellect is not throbbing with ideas, with schemes, with plans, with trying to maneuver and manipulate the external world for your self-interest. The intellect is fixed on a higher goal and is focused on actions leading towards the realization of that higher goal. So anybody who has a higher goal, it automatically you find that his intellect is free from all these petty, trifle preoccupations in life and is focused. Please remember one thing, whether you want to achieve anything in the material field or spiritual field, focus is all important. To the extent you're focused, the sharper the focus on the goal. So there are two things. One is, the higher the goal, the more successful you are. Second, the sharper the focus on the goal, the more successful you are. And then things come automatically. But no, like somebody comes from Bombay to here, then you have to run up one chachi is here and one chacha is there and one mama is here and this contact and that contact, and by the end you're so exhausted you have no time or energy to fulfill the purpose for which you've come. This is lack of focus. So the mind is not craving the intellect is not throbbing with ideas, the mind is not craving for any gratification, and neither is the body running after any sensual demands. You're completely focused. And when you're focused, you're the chittatma, you're automatically controlled. Your desires, your body, your mind, your intellect, everything is focused towards the goal. Tyakta sarva parigraha, having abandoned all possessions. It is translated as having abandoned possessions, but what it means is having abandoned possessiveness towards your possessions. Vedanta is not against your possessing objects of the world. In fact, Vedanta says the world is there for you to enjoy, to possess and enjoy. By all means, go ahead and possess and enjoy. But when you develop this sense of attachment, possessiveness towards your possessions, you cease to enjoy. Then the object starts enjoying you, in fact devouring you. When you buy a new car and you're possessive towards that car, if another taxi or an auto rickshaw or whatever it is comes even 2 feet within the periphery of your car, you say, ouch. Have you seen people who are possessive towards the car? Oh, they go through hell. The blood pressure rises every time the car is driven. Because in a city, big city like this, you have to expect that the car, within a few days, it will get a scratch here, it will get a dent there. This is life in Indian cities. So, possessiveness, the sense of possessiveness disturbs your mind, and when your mind is disturbed, you cannot enjoy what you possess. What a tragedy. Everybody else enjoys what you possess, and you've gone through so much hard work to earn the money, to save, to buy, and then you don't enjoy, everybody else enjoys your possession. So, the beauty and grandeur of renunciation is defiled to the understanding of mere dropping of possessions. Dropping of possession is very easy, but to drop the possessiveness towards your possessions is a very difficult thing. Tyakta sarva parigraha. Shariram kevalam karmadi. The body acts. The body does what you have to do within the area of your swadharma. The body acts in such a way that your existing desires and vasanas get exhausted. But you don't cultivate fresh vasanas, you don't cultivate fresh desires, because your mind, your intellect, everything is focused on the higher goal. This is the only way to act. This is the only sensible way to act. 22.
Yadruchalabha santushtaha द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः समः सिद्धावसिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते.
Supremely content with whatever comes unsought. risen above the pairs of opposites, free from envy, balanced in success and failure. One is not bound despite acting. You know, these verses, as you go along, in this chapter, Vyasa, reserved the best for last. So you'll find as you go along, today, tomorrow and day after, the last 3 days, the gems of wisdom that come out have the power that can shake the world. Innocuous looking verses. But you try and implement even one of these qualities in your life and you find you've become developed like it's like nuclear power. It's enormous. It completely changes the face of not only your personality, your environment, nature, everything can change. And as we saw in day 1, in a couple of years, people are saying India is going to have a large percentage of young population. And these young people are going to have enormous energy and vitality. If this energy is not channelized properly, it's going to go into destructive channels. Not only that, people are projecting that in the next 25 years we're going to get tremendous prosperity. Money is going to come our way. India is going to become a rich nation. I hope these projections come right. But then, having obtained the riches, do we have the inner enrichment with which to balance it? Mere acquisition of external wealth without having this inner balance leads to destruction. That's why Shankaracharya in Bhaja Govindam says, Artham anartham bhavaya nityam nastidata sukhaleshaha satyam. Wealth is calamity. Remember this always. There is not the least happiness in it. Therefore it is in the Vedantic culture they say, when you perform actions with all these inputs, success, prosperity will come to you. And when that prosperity comes to you, what must you do? Redeploy it. Throw it back into the society. Then it purifies you. That's why they talk about dana. In the Rig Veda, a huge portion of the Veda is dedicated to dana. Dana means charity. Why must you do charity? Not because the world needs your charity. There's not a soul in the world that is so poverty-stricken that it needs your charity or mine. We don't need to do charity because people need our charity. We need to do charity because we need to do it desperately. Share the spoils. Share our prosperity with others, with the less privileged. Every one of us here belongs to the privileged class, don't you agree? We have had access to education. We've had access to the best that this country has to offer. And with all that, what do? All the time we're thinking of how much more can we acquire. Can you not think of sharing with others who are less privileged than you? Dana is very important. Anyway, coming back. Supremely content with whatever comes unsought. Santushtaha. Tushtaha, content. Santushtaha, supremely content with whatever comes unsought. This does not mean that you're looking for something that comes without hard work, effort. Yesterday we saw the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. The tamasic state is a state in which you don't put in effort, you're not working at all. That's not what he's talking about. The rajasic state is a state in which there is a lot of effort and a lot of strain, a lot of stress, and the results are not commensurate with the effort. Sattvic state is a state of effortless excellence, where your mind is perfectly tranquil, and because you're dedicating your actions to a higher ideal, whatever you do comes out perfect, effortlessly. So that's what he's saying. Supremely content with whatever comes unsought. And then you find fulfillment in the action, so that you are not concerned with the fruit. Dvandvatitaha, when you perform actions like this, you rise above the pairs of opposites because you are not dependent upon the fruit of action. Vimatsaraha, free from envy. This is such a wonderful quality to inculcate. The ability to share in other people's success is so great, and your happiness increases. When you look at a competitor, don't look at him as a competitor, look at him as a partner. And when you look at him as a partner, when he does well, you feel as happy or more happy than he feels. And the payoff is tremendous. He does all the hard work, you experience the happiness. Wouldn't you like it? For which all you have to do is be free from envy. Jealousy and envy are the negative emotions which pull us down. Be established in oneness. Then he says, Samaha, Siddha, Asiddha, balanced in success and failure. Because your focus is on the action and not the result of the action. Whatever comes as a result of that action, it doesn't matter to you. You accept it as prasad from the Lord. It's a beautiful concept. The greatest of people did not look for appreciation, did not look for rewards from the world. For the simple reason that when you rise to a level of perfection, you understand that the common man just doesn't understand the quality of action. The average person does not understand excellence. They take a scientist of outstanding caliber, Einstein. His theory of relativity we don't understand. When Amartya Sen won the Nobel Prize, he came to Bombay to give a lecture. So everyone went there to listen to him because they thought it was like going and listening to Amitabh Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan. They went and he gave a lecture on economics, and after the lecture I asked some people, how was the lecture? It went completely over the head. This is what it is. When you come up with excellence, you must understand the average person that has no clue. People are completely clueless about excellence. So then you derive your satisfaction from the performance of the action. You are not looking for appreciation from me. And even if people appreciate, they clap, they don't know what they're clapping for. Sama, Siddha, Siddha. You find that for absolutely mediocre work, people get celebrity status. And for the most brilliant actions, there is no appreciation whatsoever. The best of people were appreciated after their death. So, Samaha Siddha Vasiddhaucha. Such a one is not bound despite acting. Though he acts, though such a person acts, he is not bound means he doesn't create further desires, further vasanas. He in fact gets liberated from the cycle of birth and death here in the world. Fabulous concept. Verse 23.
Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavasthita chetasaha yajñaya charatah karma samagram praviliyate.
Gata sangasya, free from attachment. Muktasya, liberated. What words he uses, fabulous terminology. Jnanavasthita chetasaha, with mind established in knowledge. Yajñaya charata karma, acting for yajña, sacrifice. If you do all this, samagram praviliyate, karma samagram praviliyate, one's entire action is exhausted, dissolved. So what is he speaking of? Gata sangasya, you're free from attachment to what? External things, he's spoken of in verse 20. Internal changes, he's already given us in 21. And the effects of your action in verse 22. You're free from all this, you're devoid of attachment to all this. It's a beautiful concept. Detachment is not physical, it's mental. When you are wholeheartedly, completely participating in the world, you are acting in the world, and yet mentally you are totally detached from it. That is exhilarating action. Every one of us has gone through this in our life. See, whenever he speaks here in the Gita, you have to get back to your own experience, have to get back to your own level, understand what it is, and then extrapolate it, project it into the realm that he is speaking of. Otherwise, it's impossible to understand. You will go back and say, good lecture. I hope you say at least that. But then there will be no transformation. If you want to change for the better from this knowledge, you have to relate it to your own life. So when is it that you wholeheartedly participate in action and yet you're completely detached from action? When you as an adult are playing with a 5-year-old kid, you're playing a game with a child. Right? And if you're really doing justice to the child, why are you playing the game with the child? Not because you have any interest in the game, but because you want to entertain the child, you want to spend what they call as quality time with the child. So you sit there and play with the child, and you do it wholeheartedly. It's not as if you're sitting there and calculating what to do in business. You set aside that time, you're enjoying what you're doing with the child, and yet you're totally detached. You have no interest in the outcome of that game. In fact, you are happier when you lose and the child wins. It's so nice to see the innocent, childlike happiness that the child gets from winning the game. So you're totally detached, free from attachment. Muktasya, you're liberated from the toy realm. Jnanavasthita chetasaha, your mind is established in the knowledge of adult joys. Isn't that true? Acting for yajna. Yajna means sacrifice. That time that you're spending with the child, you're doing it for the child's sake, not because you have any axe to grind. Acting for sacrifice. Then one's entire action is exhausted. In the realm of that game, you have no vasanas. The playing of the game doesn't add one more desire. It's not as if you come out of the game saying, now when next am I going to play with the child? No such thing. Completely free. Right? And what joy it gives you. If you are able to perform actions in your sphere of activity with the same attitude that you have when you play the game with the child, the whole of life becomes one big game. That's why I say Krishna Leela. Krishna had a rollicking time, a playful time in adult activities because he maintained the same sense of detachment, whatever he was doing. He was thrown into all kinds of activities, one of which was where he had no interest, he had no axe to grind in the Mahabharata war. He was thrust into the Mahabharata war as the charioteer of Arjuna. Means Arjuna was the commander-in-chief of the Pandava forces. The whole Kauravas, all the Kaurava forces were gunning for Arjuna because they get him, they won the battle. And Krishna was right in front of Arjuna. In other words, the first victim would be Krishna in that. And yet he had no interest in it. He went through all these experiences playfully. And this playfulness, this mischief comes when you have a sense of detachment. So, look back into an area where you are detached and then the whole verse becomes clear. Yajnaya acharataha. If you perform actions, if every action you perform is a dedication to a higher cause, is a sacrifice to something higher, nobler, how wonderful life would be. Yajna is an ancient Vedic ritual which is performed even to this day. But unfortunately, we don't understand the meaning behind this ritual. The ritual is, to put it briefly, fire worship. Fire is invoked in a brick wall trough. And as the priests chant mantras, every participant is a community yajna, havan. You're familiar with havan, right? The members of the community come and offer their ahuti into the fire. Ahuti means offering. When ahuti is offered into the fire, what happens? The fire is stoked. The fire is kindled. And when the fire is kindled, the belief is that fire god Agni has been propitiated and has blessed all the participants. When all the fuel is exhausted, what remains is ash. That ash is applied on the forehead in 3 stripes.